Okay, this is our requirement. So this will be read slowly. It's about the muscular system. And so if you are doing this for a practice, I encourage you to read that back, as we will be doing, but that we will not put our read back on the recording. So here we go. Ready? Claudication is a lameness or a limping. Patients with chronic occlusive arterial disease complain of symptoms related to ischemia. Intermittent claudication resulting from a deficiency of blood supply in resulting from a deficiency of blood supply in exercising muscles is the initial symptom. The distress is described as a pain, ache, cramp, or tired feeling that occurs on walking, most commonly in the calf, but also in the foot, thigh, hip, or buttocks. It is relieved quickly, usually in less than 1 or 2 minutes by rest, whereupon the patient can walk the same distance again before the pain recurs. Sitting down is not necessary to obtain relief. The distress is worsened by rapid walking or walking uphill. It never occurs at rest. Progression of the occlusive disease is indicated by a lessening of the distance. Lessening of the distance the patient can walk. Similar symptoms related to exertion occur with involvement of the upper extremity. If intermittent claudication is the only symptom, the extremity may appear normal, but the pulses are reduced or absent. The level of the arterial occlusion and the location of the intermittent claudication are closely correlated. Aortoiliac occlusions cause claudication frequently in the buttocks and hips, in addition to the calf, and the femoral pulse is absent. In femoropopliteal disease.
I'm sorry, I just want to get that correct. Is it in and then the big word?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In and then the big word. Yes. What am I looking for? I need to look that one up. Okay.
Can you repeat the big word?
I can repeat it. I'm not absolutely certain I am pronouncing it correctly. Femoropopliteal disease. The claudication is characteristically in the calf, and all of the pulses below the femoral are absent. A contracture is an abnormal, usually permanent condition of a joint characterized by flexion and fixation and caused by atrophy and shortening of muscle fibers or by loss of the normal elasticity of the skin as from the formation of extensive scar tissue over a joint. Volkmann's contracture is a serious, persistent flexion contraction of forearm and hand owing to ischemia. A pressure or crushing injury in the region of the elbow usually precedes this condition. Pressure from a cast or tight bandage about the elbow are common causes. Permanent fibrosis, muscle degeneration, and a claw-like hand may result. Nurses must watch for swelling, pallor, coldness, cyanosis, or pain distal to the injury site, so that prompt loosening of constriction can restore circulation. This is also called ischemic contracture. So we will read that back now. Here is an opening statement that will be read at 200, and then I'll probably speed up a little bit for, you know, like 5 minutes or so, 5 or 10 minutes. Here we go for the record. You've already heard we're here about an automobile collision that happened on March 13th, 2006. There are 3 vehicles that have roles in what happened that day. As Mr. Stevenson just told you, one of them is a Baltimore Tank Lines fuel tanker tractor trailer combo. The second vehicle is driven by Ms. Young, who is also a defendant today. That was a Dodge Caravan minivan. And the last vehicle is my client, Mr. Irvin's vehicle, which was a Honda Accord coupe. And on the day in question, these vehicles were traveling in the vicinity of what I'm showing you as for demonstration is Mattawoman Beantown Road, approaching its intersection with Leonardtown Road. Before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my client, Mr. Irvin. He's married, has 3 kids. He's been employed since 1999 by Aeromark Corporation. What he does for them is he's an environmental services manager. He works in hospitals. Aeromark's a contractor. They hire Aeromark to run some of their operations, and what Mr. Irvin does is he supervises the environmental services crew there, which is the folks that they keep that whole hospital clean, everywhere from the clinical spaces, the ER, the operating rooms, all the way to everything that they have there. So part of his job is supervising those folks and making sure they do what they're supposed to do. Like probably a lot of folks in Charles County, Mr. Irvin also has some military experience. He is a member of the Navy Reserve. At various times, he's been on active duty. He served overseas. And he's going to tell you that on the day that this happened, March 13th, he had gone to Andrews Air Force Base because, as most people familiar with the military know, you have certain physical training or PT requirements to make sure that you're physically able to carry out your duties. And part of that means that you have to exercise to be able to meet the requirements. What Mr. Irvin liked to do is he liked to ride his bike, so that what he would do is on days that he was going to do that, he'd drive up to Andrews and ride his 24-speed Greg LeMond bike around the entire perimeter of the base, which is about 10 miles. And he had, you'll hear him tell you that he had done that on this day. He had gotten up in the morning, as he had to work later in the afternoon, but not at that time. He had gone to Andrews and he had done his exercise and he was on his way back. At the time, he'll tell you where he lived at the time, but what you will hear is that in order for him to get home, he had to take Mattawoman Beantown Road down to where it intersects with Leonardtown Road. And that Mr. Irvin's going to tell you he had to make a left and then get to his house. He had to make more or less an immediate right after he made that left-hand turn. And what else Mr. Irvin's going to tell you is that on that day, there were some other vehicles in the vicinity. One of them was a Baltimore Tank Lines fuel tanker truck. Just like any other kind of tractor-trailer combo that you're used to, it's going to have a tractor at the front and then that trailer that it pulls. And in this case, it's a tanker trailer. Mr. Irvin recognizes it as a Baltimore Tank Lines vehicle because he had seen it in traffic and it was a marked vehicle. It had their information on it. And at the time, his brother actually worked for the company, so he'll tell you that it was easy for him to ID it as a Baltimore Tank Lines vehicle. And what Mr. Irvin's going to say about how this accident happened is that Mattawoman Beantown Road, as it comes down to Leonardtown Road, starts out with two through lanes, the left and the right lane, and they both go in the same direction. As it gets closer to Leonardtown Road, as you can see in the diagram, those lanes widen out, and what you get is you get two through lanes to the right and two left turn lanes, which are the two leftmost lanes. And as you can see, as it approaches the intersection where Leonardtown Road is, it adds another lane off to the right, but that we shouldn't hear much talking about that today. And Mr. Irvin's going to describe to you how this accident took place. And what he's going to tell you is basically this, if I don't drop it on the floor. This is working out real for me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try it this way. It's like I'm doing a video on what not to do during an opening statement. I'm going to have to apologize for that. I'm usually, actually, that's a lie, I'm always this clumsy. What you're going to see and what Mr. Irvin's going to tell you, and we realize that there is debate as to how this accident happened, you're going to hear other testimony. This is what Mr. Irvin's going to say. What he's going to tell you is that you can see that this is more or less a same section of the diagram you just looked at. It's just zoomed in a little bit, and what this portion is, and it's a little tough to see, but what it shows you is the portion of Mattawoman Beantown Road where the two turn lanes start to split off to the left side as it approaches Leonardtown Road, which would be up here. And Mr. Irvin's going to tell you that he, as soon as the turn lanes came into being, that he got over to his left at a constant speed, the same speed he'd been going, and began proceeding up to the light. He's going to tell you that this is a trip that he has made thousands of times. He's lived there for about 6 years when this happened. He'd been working up at Andrews. That was his duty station for the Navy Reserves pretty much that entire time. And combined with the periods of his reserve duty and his active duty there, he was there all the time. Literally, he had done this over 1,500 times. And he always goes the same way, and he had an important reason that he always goes the same way, because he knows that to get to his house, he has to make a right turn after he makes his left onto Leonardtown Road. So in order for him to do that, he's always in the rightmost of the two left turn lanes. You know, you've got a left-hand left turn lane and a right-hand left turn lane. I know that's confusing terminology, but all the lawyers talked about it, and we couldn't come up with a better way to tell you about these lanes. And so what Mr. Irvin did is, at a constant speed, he immediately merged over into that rightmost left turn lane. And that as he came up, the trunk, the tractor trailer was next to him at this point, and he was about right here, and it's marked with an H because he was driving a Honda, and he was about midway on this truck, this tractor trailer. This is the tanker portion, and this is the tractor trailer portion. And then he proceeded up. He's going to tell you that this tractor trailer suddenly came over into his lane. And when he did that, he had to decide what to do. And what he did is, the first thing he did is he moved away from that tractor trailer. Why? He's going to tell you why, because it's a fuel tanker. He didn't want to get hit by a fuel tanker. Nobody wants to get hit by a tractor trailer, but nobody really wants to get hit by one carrying fuel because it's a fire hazard. So what he did is he came over into this left lane. He saw nothing in the left lane. When he entered the left lane, right afterwards, he was struck from the rear by this Dodge driven by Ms. Young, okay? And what you're going to be asked to determine today is if anybody was negligent in this accident. And negligence, you hear it a lot, but really what it means is it's just a term for, did somebody act carelessly? Did somebody not use the degree of care that they should have used in operating a motor vehicle that day? Now, what our argument's going to be when it's time for you to render a verdict is we're going to ask you to find that the driver of the Baltimore Tank Line's vehicle was negligent by coming over into the lane when the lane wasn't clear and without making sure that the lane was clear. Now, you're also going to have to determine what to do with Ms. Young. Ms. Young's a party in this case because she was involved in the accident, so she's sort of a necessary party. And what you're going to be asked to determine about Ms. Young is whether, you know, she in some way failed to exercise due care, whether that would have been by going slower or by having a chance to see the accident quicker. But you'll have to determine if she did something negligent that caused her car to hit Mr. Irvin's vehicle. And you'll be asked to determine that the driver of the Baltimore Tank Line's vehicle was negligent by failing to make sure that the lane was clear before he got into it. Thanks very much for your attention. Okay. All right. So I think we'll just do takes now.